Welcome to Today on this Wednesday morning. It's November the 6th, 2013. Nice crowd outside on a beautiful day here in New York. I'm Willie Geist along with Natalie Morales. Al had to leave a little early this morning. You know, Al also wasn't around the other day.
Yeah, conveniently not around.
Conveniently not around when it was time to show you how to drive stick.
Right.
He made the confession on the air. So a few days ago, we went out and I taught you how to drive stick.
Someone tried to teach me. It worked.
I feel like
for
we
a little
started
bit.
strong and then we regressed a little bit.
It was the open road test.
We'll explain that.
Yeah, the open road test that I think freaked me out a little bit.
Right. You were a great practice player, and then you kind of tensed up a little bit.
Terrible under pressure.
We're going to go through this. You're going to see the whole day, and trust me, you don't want to miss this.
Can I just point out that you guys put me in the hardest vehicle to drive?
I confess to that.
Could you get me like a cute little BMW stick shift or something, some sports car? Instead, I get this giant 1985 Jeep. Well, I guess it was 2006.
We showed up. It was big, too. It had those big tires. You had to jam it into
it
gear.
was like, to move that stick, I had to to go in reverse.
That's how I learned to drive stick on an 84 CJ7. So I think they were doing an apples to apples learning of stick.
Oh, okay.
So you'll see that coming up in just a little bit. And we want to know about your own driving skills. The question is, are you embarrassed that you don't know how to drive stick shift? I was surprised. I thought everybody knew how to drive stick. But around our staff and everybody else said, no, why would I know how to drive stick? There's no reason to.
You don't need to unless you're living in Europe or renting a car in Europe, because that's, I guess that's where you're going to find stick shifts more often than not now, manual transmission. But here, it's even at a rental car company, it's very hard to find a stick shift. You can't really get one.
We had to go to a specialist for our monster truck.
Exactly.
So go to today.com, log in, tell us what you think about driving stick. Do you do it? Do you not do it? And then we'll see me and Natalie coming up a little bit later on the show. A big day in politics, a big night in politics last night. We've got a new mayor here in New York City, Bill de Blasio, and across the river in New Jersey, Governor Chris Christie, as expected, was reelected to his second term. He won big, 60 to 39% over State Senator Barbara Buono. Everyone saw this outcome coming. He is, of course, now a leading Republican candidate for president in 2016. And some fans in the crowd last night shouting up to the podium, Christie in 2016. Here's what he said.
I love you, Chris! You'll get your hug later, brother. And I can tell you this. I guess there is open bar tonight, huh? Welcome to New Jersey.
Yeah, Jersey. That's my state right there.
He's got even more votes if he runs in 2016.
He obviously was already been talking about as a contender in 2016, and they'll go inside the numbers last night, and he'll make that case even further because he won Hispanics.
Huge, 51% of Hispanics.
He won women.
That's big.
The numbers came up among Democrats and African Americans. And remember, that's a pretty blue state in New Jersey, and he's a Republican governor getting 60%.
And most of the time, Hispanics don't tend to favor Republicans. So here, the fact that he won a large portion of the Hispanic community, I mean, it speaks volumes, and be very interesting to see if he chooses to run. It sounds like he probably will.
Yeah,
more and more.
That chatter is only going to increase after last night's vote. Meanwhile, in politics just north of the border, did you see this yesterday? Toronto Mayor Rob Ford making a pretty startling admission on Tuesday. After months of denials, the 44-year-old mayor of Canada's largest city admitted that he has, in fact, smoked crack cocaine.
Yeah. Take a look at what he said.
I sincerely apologize. I love my job. I love this city. Yes, I have smoked crack cocaine. But no, do I? Am I an addict? No.
When have you?
Have I tried it? Probably in one of my drunken stupors.
Oh, that's not a good day. That's not a good day in politics when you admit to smoking crack and doing it because you were in a drunken stupor.
Right. How many people have been in a drunken stupor and not tried something so stupid?
I have not been in that stupor and not smoked crack. I'm trying to confirm your point. Yeah.
Clear.
So this all came from back in May. The Toronto Star, the newspaper, reported the existence of a video that showed a man who appeared to be Mayor Ford with a crack pipe in his hand. And yesterday, Ford's, among other things, his tie.
Yes.
A lot of focus on the tie at the press conference. I want to take you inside what that tie is.
I was trying to figure out what that is.
That's a 1980s era NFL logo tie.
Really? How do you know that?
You know why? Because I had those sheets and the comforter.
Oh, my goodness.
It's true. I had the sheets and the
Really?
comforter. You know it's old because it has the Houston Oilers logo in it. They haven't existed for years.
Oh, my God.
How do you go, like, okay, this is the biggest presser of my life. You go into the tie rack.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Reach for the 1983 NFL logo tie.
Wow.
That is strong. Strong.
Yeah.
You know, many people have pointed out, and it's worth repeating, it is such a shame that Chris Farley is no longer with us.
I know.
Can you
because
imagine the SNL sketch?
Would have been perfect.
Wow.
I know. Yeah, I mean, that has shaken up Toronto politics for sure. A lot of people calling for him to resign.
But he's vowed to stay on.
He said he's going to stay on. And look what happened. Remember, Marion Barry years ago in Washington, D.C. admitted that he had used crack, and following an investigation, then he was kicked out for a while, and then he was able to win back his seat once again. So, you know, it's fascinating what can happen in the world of politics 4 years later.
He claims it was a one-time thing, says it was a mistake. He's going to move on and keep running the city of Toronto. Hopefully in that tie.
Sincerely hopes he gets a new tie.
The piece in the Wall Street Journal grabbed, I know, your attention and mine.
I think this is a fascinating subject, and I think for a lot of kids and, you know, parents who have kids who play sports nowadays, you know, it has become extremely competitive out there, and a lot of parents screaming on the sidelines at their kids as well. So it can be very contentious out on the field. So Jeff Pearlman, who's a notable writer for the Wall Street Journal, has written a lot also in sports.
Yeah, Sports Illustrated writer, written a couple of great books about sports. He knows of what he writes.
Right.
He's a sports reporter, and he likes sports. So this is not a knock on sports at all. This is a guy who knows of what he speaks.
Right.
He wrote, in part, I know, team sports build character. Team sports teach youngsters how to win and lose. Team sports are all about camaraderie and togetherness, but he says he's not going to let his kids play team sports. He wants them to play individual sports.
Yeah, he says he preferred his kids to run track. He would prefer that they, you know, learn how to sort of get that level of confidence on their own.
Right.
This, of course, I mean, comes on, you know, all of this alleged unsportsmanlike conduct, even bullying that we've been seeing and reading in the headlines the last couple of days with the Dolphins player.
If you read the piece, what he's getting at is something that you've touched on, and with your kids too, which is that team sports. It's not like even when you and I were playing, which like you play Little League in the spring and you play basketball in the winter.
No. It's a
they
year-long
want you to
commitment
commit
now
to a sport as though you have a college scholarship and play year-round.
Some places, starting at the level where my son is competing now in soccer, they actually make you sign contracts. If you're playing for a club team, you have to agree that your child is only going to play with that club team and not play with any other teams like youth leagues or town leagues, because they want to make sure that you're fully committed, which then begs the question. I mean, they're not able to play other sports, so they're not able to grow in other areas and know, you know, how well they would do in those other sports.
Right.
But also, I mean, I think he makes the point, you know, I think with him it's sort of about knocking kids' confidence down as well.
Yes.
And I think a lot of times on the field, you do see coaches yelling and you see parents yelling, and you know, the kids' confidence, it does suffer. I mean, I've seen that with my own son. Sometimes you're like, you know, even though you can't help but get emotional during a game, you want to steer them in the right direction, but at the same time, as a parent, you know, you can't help but be like, Josh, you just have to get that the goal.
Of course, you're competitive too. And that's really what Jeff Pearlman pegs the whole story to, is his older brother, when he was young, sat the bench the whole time until he was begrudgingly put in the fourth quarter because they had to play everybody. And he said that really hurt his brother's confidence. So he saw what team sports did to his brother, and he doesn't want that to happen to his kids. With that said, though, I don't think you throw out the baby with the bathwater. Team sports are a great thing for a lot of people, and if they're not for you, that's fine. You do something else.
I think important, he says, you know, yes, medals are nice, trophies too, but really what's so important about being the best? Why are we so focused on the result while forgetting the value of the journey? Why do we devote so much time turning our offspring into us? Which is kind of the question that I think a lot of parents should ask themselves.
Yeah, and I think the larger point is what you said, that this becomes a career for a 7 or 8-year-old kid. And let's be honest, parents, I'm sorry to break this news to you. Your kid's probably not going to play in the NHL or the NBA or Major League Baseball. Let them have some fun. Let them compete. Right. Don't turn it into a job.
I do think there's such tremendous value in playing a team sport. Yeah, even if you're not the best, even if your confidence suffers, I think it helps really grow them and helps them compete in other ways in life.
I agree.
Can we talk about naming some baby pandas?
Sure. Why not?
Because the National Zoo has opened online voting to name this adorable little baby panda. They're asking for your help. Now, here are some names that you can choose from. We have 5 different names.
Okay.
There's Bao Bao, which translated means precious treasure. Ling Hua means darling, delicate flower.
Sure.
Lung Yang means charming. Mulan, as you recall, the warrior princess from the 5th century, and also is apparently a magnolia flower. And then there's Zen Bao, which means also treasure or valuable. So a lot of beautiful names.
So the naming happens December 1st, right?
Yeah.
In a ceremony. When the cub is 100 days old, you can go to Smithsonian.com to vote. And
I like all of these names.
I like Bao Bao, which is
You like
easy to
Bao
say.
Bao?
Yeah, I'm a Bao Bao
I like
guy.
Ling Hua, darling, delicate flower.